Welcome back. Today I've got an absolute banger lined up for you guys. It's a conspiracy theory that aliens built the pyramids. Yes, you heard it right. The aliens fucking built the pyramids. So before I get into any of the theories, I'm just gonna tell you like the facts. The biggest pyramid is called the Great Pyramid, and it's built in Giza. Pyramids of Giza. And it has a 13-acre foundation, which is like the size of multiple football pitches. It has 2.3 million blocks, each weighing between 3 and 15 tons, which is heavy. Like that's like the same. That's heavier than a car, I think, which is crazy. Now, considering that, like the lightest brick was 3 tons and the heaviest was 15 tons, you like, there's no way that people were able to lift those bricks. And I don't like not even just lift them in the air, but just pull them. The Egyptians didn't have wheels. They didn't have wheels. They didn't have pulleys. They didn't have like cranes of any type. So it was literally impossible to move these bricks. Like they're 15 tons. How were people gonna move a 15-ton brick with no wheels? The only way they can move them is push them along the floor. Now I know people are gonna be like, oh, they have slaves. They'll just use like 100 slaves on this brick. No, like how are you going to fit 100 people around one brick? Like looking at a brick, you might be able to fit like 10 people around it. Like how is 10 people going to push this thing? Like no, like shut up. There's also a 20-ton revolving door that is perfectly balanced. Like it's so perfectly balanced that you can push it with one hand. You can push 20 tons of brick, and it will just swivel around like perfectly. Now maybe somehow the smallest chance is that they could do this, but I mean with alien help, or like aliens giving them tools to be able to do this, like how can they make a perfectly spanned door that 20 tons can just swivel around when they have no tools? They have like nothing. They're like, I know the Egyptians were crazy, but I can't believe that. Inside these pyramids they also had air conditioning that just manipulated the air so well that it kept the temperature inside the pyramid always below 20 degrees. And I think it doesn't work anymore, but they have records, like because the Egyptians kept record of everything. So yeah. Also, the cement or like mortar type substance used to stick the bricks together on the outside. Scientists don't know what substance it is. They've done tests on it, and like this is just unbelievable. Like how can scientists not know what this substance is? Like maybe it's just because it's aged and it's kind of just broken, but I mean that's just so stupid. So as I said, the Egyptians recorded everything. They like wrote everything down, not just in relation to the pyramids, but literally everything, like their way of life. And they say that it took the Great Pyramid 20 years to be built. Now this literally makes no sense. It says 2.3 million blocks, and they built it in 20 years. That means like someone else done the math. I didn't do this myself, but it they would have to place a block every 2 minutes, 24/7 for 20 years straight, working every day. So for 20 years, every 2 minutes a block has to be placed. Now I'm sorry, yeah. How is 15 tons? How is a 15-ton brick going to be moved from the floor, like hundreds of meters up in the air, in 2 minutes? And that doesn't. They also have to bring it like from the source. Like it's mental. It is just mental. Like that's just impossible. With They didn't have wheels. They didn't have cranes. Yet they can place a block down every 2 minutes. Like nah, mate, you're losing your mind. Current archaeologists, like modern archaeologists, say that if the pyramid was built 50 centimeters bigger or smaller, like width or height, it wouldn't have been able to stand. Which means that the Egyptians knew how to perfectly build this pyramid. They literally 50 centimeters up or like bigger or smaller, it wouldn't have been standing. How can they make that? Like I don't think that's a coincidence. They must have had help from aliens. Like honestly, I know it's pretty illogical to think that, but I mean, come on. How without any tools, without any protractors or any of that mathematical stuff, how can you do that? And how would they know that it wouldn't stand? Like I just don't. They on their own they can't think of that. It's aliens, mate. It's aliens. So another thing that people say about how they they built by themselves. Oh, they used a ramp to get it to the top. No, there's no ramp there. You can literally go to this place. There's no ramp, and this ramp would have had to be huge because the weight of the bricks. Any like if the ramp was any more than 10 degrees in like I don't know what the word is, but like 10 degrees, um, you wouldn't be able to push this 15-ton brick up the hill. So the ramp would have needed to start like miles away from the pyramid. There's literally no trace of any type of ramp, and even if there was a ramp, no type of wood can withstand 15 tons of weight on it. Doesn't matter. Like you'd literally have to stack up trees, and the amount of trees that those have to cut down, it's just they didn't cut down millions of trees just to make a ramp. You know what I mean? Like no wood would have been able to withstand 15 tons. So how in God's holy name did they just suddenly push some 15-ton brick up a slope? Like, you know what I mean? It didn't happen. So the Great Pyramid was built for Pharaoh Khufu, and you know his tomb inside was like really nice. It was made with granite blocks. Now these granite blocks aren't like granite isn't made or whatever. It doesn't come from Giza. The closest place where granite comes from scientifically is 500 miles away. So you're telling me that the Egyptians, they got these granite blocks which weigh between 12 to 700, no, not 700, Jesus, 12 to 70 tons. They put them on a boat or something, like those little wooden boats, sail it 500 miles to Giza just to put it in a tomb. Like, no, you can't, you literally can't do that. So these granite blocks, obviously heavier than the blocks outside because I know density and that. So the granite blocks are 12 to 70 tons. Now a typical crane today can lift 20 tons. This is a metal crane that you see in like London, and there's probably some better cranes that can lift more than 20 tons, but the average crane can lift 20 tons. So how are they lifting these 70-ton blocks up into the air, like, and put it into the pyramid? Like, that's, you can't do that. And you can't tell me that people are pushing or pulling this 70-ton block up this ramp that didn't exist. Like, shut up. So inside this tomb was like his coffin type thing. It wasn't a coffin, but it was a hollowed out piece of granite. Now this granite, like, perfectly hollowed out, and there's literally circular holes, like perfectly circular holes that literally looks like someone's drilled through it. Now you telling me that Egyptians had drills? No. And you can't say it was a circular chisel, because if you had some experience in chiseling, it doesn't matter how circular your chisel is. Yeah, the hole you're making isn't perfectly circular with no damage around it. Like, they had a drill, mate. Like, the aliens gave them drills. So that's all like the physical stuff dealt with. And now we're gonna get deep into this alien stuff. Like, literally, this what I'm about to say, it's gonna blow your mind, honestly. So the pyramids are pointing north within like a 3/60th of a degree, which that type of position to the magnetic field was only matched a couple of years ago in the 21st century. So I don't know if it's like this still the second most accurately placed like building pointing to the North Pole, but at least until the 21st century, it was the most accurate magnetically pointing. I know that phrase didn't make sense, but for that amount of time, no other building was able to point to the North Pole as precise as the pyramid. Now you can't do that by coincidence. Like, they didn't have compasses. They literally didn't have anything. All they could do is look at the stars or have aliens tell them. Like, obviously the aliens, if aliens exist, they obviously know, because they have UFOs, so they would know about magnets and that. So, like, that's just a dead giveaway that the Egyptians were up to something dodgy, and it was definitely aliens, mate. It was the aliens. Similar to the magnetic field things. So there's obviously other places like Giza all around the world, like places in South America, and the majority of these like ancient buildings that are still standing, like almost perfectly still standing, if you draw a line around Earth from, like, you can literally connect all of these places like in one line, straight line, doesn't go off at all. It's just one straight line, and these are basically the only places that are still standing. There are probably some like other like smaller places that are a bit more degraded, but all of the ones that are still standing, they all connect up like in one big circle. So obviously pyramids of Giza, Paracas, Nazca, Ollantaytambo, Machu Picchu, Cuzco, Suksehumon, and Paratori, and Easter Island, all these places, and there's loads more. I just couldn't be asked to write them all down. But all these places are a perfect circle around the Earth. Now, is that a coincidence? It really isn't. Like, come on now. The only ancient buildings that are still perfectly standing are all connected. Like, nah. The aliens knew that. The aliens are smart people. You know what I mean? If you draw lines out of all four sides and all four corners of the pyramids and draw them around the Earth, so that it joins back to the Pyramid of Giza, these lines will pass through a lot of land and like the most amount of land than if you did this like thing, this experiment to any other point on the planet. So it's basically, I'm really bad at explaining this point. I didn't really know how to word it, but it essentially makes the pyramids of Giza the centre of the world's landmass. So like if you did this to the same with like the Eiffel Tower, for example, and you did like these lines around the world, they will pass more. The lines will go through more water. You know what I mean? It's really confusing. Don't really have to speak, but yeah. The length and the width of the Great Pyramid is within a fraction of the latitude and longitude on the equator. So if you scale the size of the pyramid up, it will give you the exact measurement of the distance between the equator and the North Pole, and the exact circumference of the whole Earth. So I'll say it again: the height, if you scale up the height of the pyramid, it will be the exact distance between the equator and the North Pole, and if you scale up the width of the pyramid, it will be the exact circumference of like the Earth if it was flat. You know what I mean? But it's not flat. That's another conspiracy theory, lads. This means that the pyramid is essentially a scale model of the northern hemisphere. Like mathematically, it is a scale model. The coordinate of the pyramid, I'll put it on the screen now, is exactly the same as the speed of light measured in meters per second. Exactly the same, and this isn't a small number. It's like a 10-digit number. Now that is just mind blowing. How is the top of the pyramid, like the pyramid, the center of the pyramid, the exact measurement of the light speed in meters per second? That's just, I don't know why the aliens would do that if they did make the pyramids, but I mean there's just so many like mathematical things how the pyramids is exactly the same as something else, like the scale of the northern hemisphere, or the coordinates being exactly the same number as the speed of light measured in meters per second. Like all these things, like you can't have all of these things and just say it's a coincidence. Like, no. If you take a look at nearby pyramids, I don't know how far away they are, but they're just a couple of miles away. These pyramids are completely destroyed. They're a lot smaller pyramids, but they're just ruins. And you can see that there was a ramp, like the ramp's still there, and it's been destroyed. Everything about this pyramid is just so much more like humanly built. You know what I mean? Like it looks more human, and just like any other human-built monuments in the past, they've just been destroyed. Like these pyramids have lasted thousands of years. They've lasted through 3 earthquakes that have flattened Cairo, yet these stone buildings built like 3000 BC are still standing. Like, how? Also, if you take a look at like hieroglyphics, the Egyptians literally drew UFOs. They look like UFOs or aliens and stuff like that. And their coins as well. There's aliens on their coins. Like they just look like aliens. There's no way they're humans. There's a stone that was found in like the 40s. It's called the Hypatia stone, and it was found like right next to the Pyramid of Giza by some little kid. And scientists examine it, and they say that like the closest source of this stone isn't from our solar system. So this stone from Giza doesn't even come from our solar system. It comes from like some faraway galaxy. Like, how has it just ended up in Giza, right next to the pyramids, which is probably like the biggest conspiracy as to why aliens could exist, and like the most active point of what people think aliens went to. You know what I mean? It's mental. Like all these things, and there's people in Africa. There's this tribe, and they understood. There's this sun like in another galaxy called Sirius B, and it's Sirius A as well. And I'm not a great scientist, but I think these two suns, I think science just sees them as one sun, because we didn't realise that there was the orbit of one, like Sirius A. It means it's always hidden by Sirius B or something. So you literally can't see the second sun without a telescope. Yet these people living in the desert in Africa knew that this existed, and like the knowledge that these people have of of space and of, they knew that Saturn had a ring, they knew that Jupiter had 4 moons. How do these people know this when they literally just have eyes? They don't have any telescopes. They don't write, and I think they literally said that like aliens came down or something. I think they called them the Nuba or something. So like these people, and there's no way that these people would know that. Like you need a massive like electron telescope or something. Like there's just no way. It was freaking aliens. So that's it, guys. Hopefully, you're like me and you believe that aliens are actually in this. Like I think I actually didn't realise all these mathematical things like the coordinates and that. Like there's just too many coincidences. Like you just can't call them coincidences. Like I literally think aliens, or maybe not aliens, but some like special human, like just help the Egyptians and all these other people make these monuments, because it's crazy how massive and how advanced these pyramids are. Like it was just impossible to make. So hopefully you like this video, and please leave a like and all that. If he gets 50 likes, I'll go to Egypt and prove it that aliens were there. So yeah, hopefully I will get to 50 likes, and I'll see you boys in the next video.